Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Happy to see you today. Well, I can't see you, but happy to know you're out there. Um, and welcome to the Nonprofit Coffee Talk. If you tuned in for the Nonprofit Coffee Talk, you're in the right place. So, super excited to have with me today Priscilla Aguila. Wait, did I say that right?
Og like dog,
No,
U like
Aguila.
you,
Aguila.
like fa la 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 la. Aguila.
Aguila. Thank you.
You're
I'm going to
welcome.
keep working at it. Aguila. Aguila. Okay, great. Thank you for your graciousness too in my butchering of your last name. I'm so sorry. Um, and Priscilla is here to talk with us about visibility and how to be recognizable, consistent, and memorable as organizations. Very excited to have her lay down some wisdom about that. So, if you have any questions today during Nonprofit Coffee Talk, put it in your chat box wherever you're tuning in, LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So those will pop up. I'll watch those and try to answer your questions today. So, Priscilla, thank you so much for being on today. I couldn't be any more thrilled to have you.
Well, yeah, I'm excited because I just told you it's been a long time since I've done a live like interview type of thing, and I was last time was 2021 for Respect the Hustle conference with my good friend Tanisha. So,
Cool.
yes,
That's
it's
great.
weird.
So, yeah, it's fun. I like doing these. I have
I
so
do.
much
I
fun
love it.
interviewing people. I
Yeah.
just love it. There's so much good information out there, and people are so smart like you. So,
Oh,
thank you.
thank
So,
you.
just by way of introduction,
Yeah.
Priscilla found her success in the advertising and marketing industry. She's been in that industry for over 23 years, and she's done that by combining her skills as a copywriter, graphic designer, account executive. And she's an idea genie. I love that. You need to have a genie costume, by the way.
I do.
Nice. And she specializes in creative direction, branding, strategy, campaigns, and celebrating every day. And if you follow her on social, you get to be part of her everyday celebrations, and I love them. They make my day every day. So, Priscilla gives a fresh perspective by using both left and right brain in her designs and creative process for her inspiration and design shop, which is called Get Silly Creative. Um, she's worked with nonprofits, and the start of that was with Motherful, which is a BIPOC-led grassroots collective of single moms. After she found herself back in her home state of Ohio after a divorce as a new single mother of two. Um, and this really led to her wanting to use her gifts to help more nonprofits gain the visibility they need to be seen and have their story heard. And so that's what kind of brought us together. Priscilla, I don't even remember how we met. Like, I think we just found each other on social media,
Yeah.
had some common friends, and somebody introduced us. Do you remember who?
Well, we actually met. We do have a lot of friends in common,
We
but how
do.
we met was I was interviewing for I was interviewing for a yes,
That's
another
right.
nonprofit, and
That's
we did
right.
a screening. And I was like, when we first met, I said, well, no matter what happens, can we hang out?
I know, right? Like, we
And I think
instantly liked each other.
yes, we
Yeah,
made our
that's right.
first
Thank
date.
you.
Our first date was made within like a couple of minutes.
Exactly right. And it's been great ever since. And,
Yes.
I'm thrilled working with you. You're amazing. I just find you to be so joyful and inspiring. And I'm so glad that we're in each other's lives.
Me
So
too.
it's been so wonderful.
Me too.
Um, you can follow Priscilla and I'll put the website in the chat. If you look up Get Silly Creative, you should find her. But I'm going to post in the chat box so that everybody can find her easily. There's a link. Um, so I'm Libby V, nonprofit champion and founder of Libby V and Associates. And through visioning, strategy work, leadership coaching, development support, and organizational and board development, our nonprofit leader clients successfully raise more money and have more impact. But not all nonprofits can afford to hire a consultant. So I created the Nonprofit Coffee Talk as a way to provide great content and helpful information to as many nonprofits as I can. I hope you find it useful today and in the past. And please feel free to suggest topics and or guests you'd like to see me have on. Always open to those suggestions. So thank you for being here. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for saying hello. Appreciate it.
Hi, Danielle.
Is it? Yes, it's nice
I
to
can't
know
see who's
anyone
on
there.
here.
Isn't it? Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know your folks are on here for sure. It's wonderful. All right, so let's get started, Priscilla. So let's kind of start out by talking about how can nonprofits be more memorable? How can they be more fun? How can they, post things and share things and be more visible and recognizable and consistent?
I guess the first thing to think about is they have to know who they are. I had a discussion actually with Danielle yesterday about branding, and I came across, it's like, are you branding for yourself? Are you branding for your, who you want to attract? And it was like in the case of Danielle and myself, we both brand for ourselves because it's like I want, like, for me, I want people to see right offhand who they're working with, because you can know right hand, kind of like dating, right? I'm not into I'm not into that person or whatever, right? And in my case, that's what I want people to do, is I want them to see who I am, see if they want to work with me, and and then go from there, because that the whole thing with branding, like, is whether or not it's you hiring somebody or you doing it yourself, you want it to be personable, you want it to be authentic. And if you can't have and you're building a relationship with how they see you, because unfortunately that's how we do, right? We see something, and I've used this an example many times, is when I was looking for Montessori for my daughter. Somebody had told me, hey, go check out this place. I looked at their website and designer, right? And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And she said, just go and check it out. So I went and I checked it out right on the spot. I said, she's coming here. And, but the thing is, like, they didn't have the funds to hire somebody. And it's so funny, not funny, but when we came here to Columbus as a single mother, that's how I got started. You said with the, I got started and I went to an event. It was for single moms. And at the time they were called Mothers in Arms. And I went there, but I looked at their branding, and me being with it, I'm like, oh, but I wanted to, because this is what I was in. I was a single mother. I needed to find a community of other single mothers. So I went there. And as I sat in that first community dinner and I was listening to them, I was like, oh, I love what their mission is. I love their voice, and I love everything about this. But I think more people need to hear about it. And I knew they're not going to get seen because it's not polished. It's not whatever. So I approached them afterwards and I said, who does your marketing? And I'm going to do it. So I talked to them and we did a rebrand, and it was fun. And I've on the marketing chair and helped them out with marketing. And that was the thing, is when I realized, during the pandemic, I decided to go and start my own business and do, my own thing. And that's kind of when I realized I wanted to help, like, small businesses or nonprofits, people that couldn't afford, like, the agency look or agency anything. And I consider myself like a mini agency. Like, don't come to me for your booking or bookkeeping or anything, but I know somebody who can, right, help you out.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's what I offer. And so it's been really nice for me, because, like, in that case of that nonprofit, I can't donate my time, I can't donate money, but what I can donate is this gift that I have. And that's what I want for, like, nonprofits, is I feel as if there's so much heart behind it and there's meaning behind it. But as if their story is not going to get told, nobody's going to see it. Like, you've connected me with another great nonprofit, and hearing from the board, listening to the story behind it and listening to it, it's beautiful, and I want that visibility to be seen. I want people to know more about it. And unfortunately, they won't know about it. But I understand that, I know that some nonprofits don't have, that type of budget to offer.
Mhm.
But it still is like there's ways I think that people can strengthen up their messaging. But the thing is, like, your messaging, it doesn't mean anything if you don't have a clear understanding of who you are. You know,
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I know it's not where people start typically, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know that, that people pause and say, what story are we trying to tell? Like, what messages do we wanna get across? How do we wanna show up on social media? Or, what are the real key things? Like, can you talk a little bit about how they should start that process of really understanding who they are and how they wanna tell their story? How would you suggest they get started with that?
Well, I mean, I think it's, you sit down and everyone's talking about their why. Why? I mean, really, that's what it is. Why are you doing this? And who are you trying to reach? Because I think in the nonprofit world, you're thinking about, it's kind of probably more than even twofold, but you think about how did it start? And what is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to get more volunteers, or do you want to get more money, just to help run what you're doing? I mean, it's probably a combination of everything, right? And you can't, and that's the problem. Like, it's hard to do because a lot of them are just doing it themselves. They're doing it for free. They're doing it for whatever. So it's hard because you're pulled in so many different directions, and it's like you're with your head cut off, right? But I think if you narrow down really, if that's like your set core, if you know what your core is, it's like there's ways to kind of, you know, that you can make it work. But I think it's it gets a lot of jumbled up, I think, sometimes because you have, well, I've got to take care of this. We got to take care of this. I mean, it's just like being a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like, because actually, I guess a nonprofit is like your baby, right? You want to love it, you want to
Yeah.
hold it, and you want to protect it from everything, but you also want to share it and you want it to go out into the world and everything.
Yeah.
And some nonprofits, they start with something that happened in their families or it's happening to
Mhm.
them now. And that's where, I think a lot of people, like I was saying to somebody that, everybody's into like I think everyone's still into like reality TVs and they want to know the story. So I think it's a wonderful time, for nonprofits to really share their story. And
Mhm.
they don't necessarily have to have like, you don't have to have, the big dollars to tell that story, right? Like one of them that I'm
Mhm.
working with now, they have people that are handling the reels. They're
Mhm.
handling the reels, they're handling some of the other stuff, which they already have like something to start with. And I'm kind of coming in, which is
Mhm.
great because I was thinking about this the other day that when I'm looking at their social, it's kind of hodgepodgey, but it
Mhm.
works because I don't think as a nonprofit, you want it to look totally polished. You need it to have
Right.
that human part of it, right?
Yeah.
And I can't do reels for people. It's better for
Mhm.
within the organization for them to do anything that's video, anything, whatever. But to have
Mhm.
something to tie everything else in together. Like, what I do is I've looked back at their social and their messaging is great, and then maybe it just needs like, like a bow on it or something, not for, literally a bow, but like if I take
Mhm.
that and I'll take where they're at. Yeah, it's kind of like a Pretty Woman story, right? Like,
Yes.
let's go. And I want pizza. I'm going to sit down. I want you to get me some pizza. But yeah, I like tell people with branding, it's almost like the 80s movies where they had the like the girl like pretty in pink, right? Andy, beautiful, whatever. Nobody saw her until she got in her pretty prom dress, you know. But at the core, it's like there's
It's
goodness,
her.
there's heart,
Yeah.
and it's like I think that will always shine through no matter what. Like you can have the sharpest looking brand,
Mhm.
right? But if there's nothing behind it, it's like,
Right.
right?
Yeah, for sure, and people do see through that. Like, I do think that a lot of people I love your point about, having it be all polished and professional looking and stuff. It's like those days are kind of over.
Mhm.
It's much more about authentic voice and being genuine to your brand, quote unquote, your
Yeah,
organization, right? And it's okay to just pick up your cell phone and record a video and post it. That's good, right? That's a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah,
We used to think, oh, we can't do that. We have to hire a video production company to create a professional video. Not anymore. And that I think is one of the best parts of social media marketing now, right? Is
yeah.
just it doesn't have to be, but it has to have some things. You can't just go about it haphazardly. I mean, you can, but what are some of the things that you should be thinking about, that a nonprofit should be thinking about as far as, um, doing social media and being a little bit consistent and being authentic and really being effective with their social media marketing? So what are some of your suggestions for that?
Well, I guess I would say is, just to keep reminding people of what you're doing, right? Who is it for? Back to I mean, it seems like it's so simple, but it's like you want to keep talking about yourself. We kind of get in that thing, well, I don't want to talk about myself, but how is anybody going to know, right? If you don't keep sharing yourself out there. And really, it's like I was it's like with the nonprofit, it's like if you could, um I know in one case, it's like if you have maybe one particular person that you're helping or a family that you're helping, and tell their story or have them involved in it, and get people, you want to get people invested in knowing more and keep wanting to share more. Maybe not share, obviously you can't share everything, but people want to see those wins. And I would think, especially for a nonprofit, sharing those wins is great. People be like, oh, I helped with that, or I want to see more of that. Or also, it's the wins and the losses. You show the heartbreak stories or the things that
Yes.
are not so good. And that's why I think it's like nonprofit, it's great to show like the true grittiness of it, because you don't
Yes,
necessarily have to worry
absolutely.
about, like, the business people, the corporate one, they're like, they have
Mhm.
to put a front. But like with
Yeah,
nonprofit, you can't put up a front. There
that's
is no
right.
front. There is no front.
Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting that you raise that because, nonprofits have gotten in the habit of sharing success stories because a lot of grant making organizations will ask for a success story, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to use it for their marketing. But I love your point about you have to show the one, the not yet successes too, right? Because if you only show successes, people will think that you don't need anything else.
Mhm.
Oh, they've got it. They're very successful. They have a lot of successes. Why do they need me as a potential donor, or why do they need, right? So it's important to show the need too. It's important to show that there are still a lot of people that still need your help, or animals, or the environment, whatever your cause is, right?
Right.
You got to
Yeah.
show the good, the bad, and the ugly. I hate to use that as an analogy, but
Well, but it's also makes it more relatable. I mean, and the thing is people, they want to know, where's my money going to? Where's my time going to? Oh, I just see the pretty things. You want to see that you're making an impact. And you want to know that you're making an impact. And, like in my cases, I see things that I'm like, I can't afford to give, or I don't have the time to give. But another great point is, even if you can ask the people to share, they can share your story, they can spread the word about you. If anything, that's huge. That
yeah.
may have more impact than, donating money.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think often, nonprofit EDs are always, trying to think of how can I better engage my board in our work. That's
Mhm.
one way they could be really helpful, is just by sharing
Yeah.
um, posts and information about the organization, and even saying on social media, I support this organization, I'm
Yeah.
on board, I'm very proud of our work, look at what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that takes no time whatsoever, right? You're not taking out your wallet, you're not looking up PayPal, you're not logging in anything. Hit that little arrow button usually. Share. You don't even have to put a comment, you can share it. Or or even I'd say to people is, you don't want to share, maybe at least comment. You're doing great, or thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the key is to share the story, whether or not, and or it's like maybe even they just feel it. They just feel it, and maybe they can't even, I can't do that or whatever. It's just there's still an impact, and there is some spreading going around, right?
I think that's a really good point too. Like they don't even have to share, they can just like it and comment, and
Mhm.
that helps boost,
Yeah.
you know, the views and things like that. So all
I
of
mean,
that
and
is
and I think it's
beneficial.
also not even so much like boosting it. It's like it'll boost um the people that, like if it's a nonprofit and
Yeah,
somebody liked it, you feel good because as a nonprofit, you're like, somebody's hearing us, somebody is listening to
yeah,
us.
yeah. It's great. So, we kind of I took us down the path of social media because it's so big.
Mhm. Yeah.
But are there other things like that you think that nonprofits should be paying attention to as far as their branding and marketing and, communications and all those things that they're putting out? Like, what are some suggestions you always have? You started working with that nonprofit organization that I connected to, and I know
Yeah.
you're being very helpful to them, and they're
Yeah.
just thrilled with your work. But what are some of the things that you like to kind of talk to nonprofits about, or check out about them as you start thinking about working with them and talking to them?
But when I start working with them, I go into my account management, project manager mode, where I want to see the overall story. I want to see what is the end goal, and then we start looking at everything as a whole. I mean, I'm not just looking at this little piece of how I can help them. I'm thinking of how can this, you know, continue on the journey with them, because I think that's important. And and I like to tell them, like, I would like to help them get a little bit more footed, so they can continue. I mean, sometimes I can't continue with, the people when I'm working with them, which is fine, but I like to at least help them stand up a little bit more, sit up a little higher maybe, and feel more good about themselves, because there's a little bit of they have to have that confidence. It's tough because they want to do all the things, but you can't do all the things, but I think it's like, if you really believe in what you're stand behind, I mean, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
And
When
maybe
you w
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying, it might take a little bit longer, but I think if you and it's hard to stay organized. So that's kind of I spent a lot of time with some of them helping get the mishmash a little bit more together till we can move
Mhm,
forward on stuff.
mhm. What do you look for? Like, when you start working with an organization and they say, take a look at our stuff, our social media, our website. What are you looking for when you're looking at all that to sort of judge, I hate that word, assess,
Hmm.
evaluate, what are they doing well and what do they need help with? Like, what are the things that you're looking for that? So, and the other way to think of it is kind of what's the minimum that folks should have and be doing, nonprofits.
Well, I think, right now it's like with the social, right? With the content. I think some cases they may not need a website. They may have like they might want to grow on social media. Facebook group might be the easiest thing, right? If they can't afford somebody to help manage them with maybe a website, or they can't do this, at least if they're getting their word out somewhere to spread, and then they can build upon it. So maybe not get all the things at once, just figure out one area that you're strong in, and then you can build it, right? I think that's a lot of things that we think like all over the place. Like I don't have really a website per se, but it's like most of my work that I get, I'll tell you like 95% of the work is through word of mouth or just by meeting people. And I think that's the key. And then once I get there, I'm like, right now, I don't really have a need per se to fix those things because what I've got is going is working. And I think don't take on too much and pass off what you can. Maybe you can barter with somebody, on some things, or maybe they can offer like discounts. Like I offer
Mhm,
nonprofit discount, and it's like, or you
mhm,
can, or the people that like I know lots of people that I can tell you who you can go here and here and here, and I can have suggestions rather than going. I mean, they can go shortcut ways there are, but if you can find one person that's kind of in an industry and you trust that person,
mhm,
ask them for referrals of other people, and maybe they can, work out something
mhm,
to build
mhm.
upon what you have.
Yeah. I like that you said start small, right? Because I
Mhm.
think What I hear a lot from nonprofits is, well, we don't have a social media person, so we can't do social media. I get that because they're all slammed and everything,
Yeah.
but you have to do social media because it's just like the way things work today. So starting small, and I'm a small business owner, right? And so I knew I needed to get into the social media game. And so thankfully I ran across somebody who's like, just start with one platform. Let's
Mhm.
figure out where your market
Yeah.
is and let's start out. So I chose to start out with LinkedIn, right? Because my market is EDs, nonprofit EDs, and those kinds of folks and board members. Start with one
Mhm.
and just be consistent.
Yeah.
So when we talk about being consistent, what do you recommend for people? Do you recommend, you know, that they post once a week, a few times a week, every day? Like,
I
do
will
you have
be
any tangible things
I
like
will.
that?
I will be honest with you. For me, it's as a single mom, entrepreneur, I post when I can. And I had this talk with another friend of mine who's also in the same boat. And she's like, just post when you can. It's like you have too much stuff, other stuff to stress out about. Then when am I going to
Mhm,
post? I mean, of course, now they have things where you can schedule the posting and stuff,
mhm,
but it's like the people will find you. They will find you.
mhm,
It's like if you
mhm.
have like, yeah, I mean, I just believe that. I mean, it's hard to keep
Yeah,
going, but isn't that like
yeah.
part of nonprofit is you just keep going, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important to, like you said, start small and let's not get all uptight about it, but just kind of like, you know, when you're doing stuff, just post, right? Like if just give a little glimpse into the life of a nonprofit, right? And what
Mhm.
what happens
Yeah.
in your world and take pictures when you go to networking meetings or when you have a volunteer event or whatever, or video and post that. Like, be just kind of relax about it, and don't be afraid to post too often, and don't make it all into a real complicated thing, right? Like, oh,
Right.
I need to schedule out a month's worth of posting. Like, that's
Yeah.
great to think
Yeah.
through it if you're able to, but also just take opportunities and post when it's naturally a
You know,
good time.
I would say that, like, I'm thinking of if you can get like a Google Drive or something like that, and you photo dump and everything. And maybe if you can limit to the people that are posting for you, so there is a little bit and it doesn't look like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you know, if even if you're feeding content for the person that's going to put it out there, that's huge. Like I have, in some of my other cases, it's like, can you just give me content so I don't have to do it? I mean, it helps me because I have something to start writing on, and so I am also writing the posts for doing that, also the graphics, but having that content, because especially if you're hiring somebody to do the social, they're not in the trenches and they're not all in there. They don't have that. Like if I had a client that was in another state, I can't take pictures. I can't, be there for events and just sharing that stuff. Because even at events, sharing, like if you're speaking places, we can strip the information out there. We can pull things out of it. But, that story is yours, and you need to share
Yeah,
it in one place, because what happens if whoever's working on it, they leave? At least
yeah,
it's all still there, and then on the social
yeah.
media, you can recycle what you had before. Once you start getting a brand
Mhm.
and once you get getting more polished, you can take that. I've taken a couple of things from months ago because it's great. It's great. The content is great. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
And all I did is just, redesigned what the graphic looked like and I reposted it.
yeah. And I think that's really smart, is to figure out, to keep everything, right? So you can repurpose it and
Yeah.
make sure it's organized. And
Yeah.
the other thing is that I learned, and I think this is real important. It's just like when you're networking and you're trying to either, as a small business, sell your services or your widgets or whatever, but also in nonprofits to try to get support, whether that means money or volunteers or whatever, is go out and engage with others' social media posts, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
you have to give in order to get. So it's like, be engaging and make sure too, when you post something like you were saying a minute ago, that you engage with people when they engage with your posts, that you just don't yell out into the social media
Mhm.
world and expect everybody to pay attention to you. You got to engage. You have
Yeah.
to, if people ask questions, if they make comments, you have to engage with them.
Right. And it's another thing important is if you have multiple people working on it, maybe if you can set people, hey, you do Monday, you do Tuesday, you do Wednesday.
Yeah.
So then you're not having like everyone's posting on the same day. So it's nice to have, you have to have a little bit of organization in that sense too. Yeah.
I think that's a really great point. And our time is up. Did I tell you that our time would whip by so fast? We
I
would
knew
wonder
it.
what happened.
And I even
know
talk
it goes
fast.
by so fast. It goes by so fast.
It does.
This has been wonderful. I really appreciate you being on, and I want you to come back. So, where can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. I do have a campsite website.
And I put it in this. I put it in the
somewhere.
chat. Yep, I put it in there. So it's
And
in there.
yeah,
Good.
and I'm also on Facebook. It's my name with the middle initial D, and then on Instagram it is Get Silly Creative. So
Great.
you can find me somewhere.
That's
Make
good.
sure if you find a Priscilla, make sure it's the one with the middle D. That's me.
Yeah, that's right. There are a few of you out there. So I hope you all will join us next week when our guest, Duretti Mimi Tedeschi, will be talking about why empowering women is important in rural areas using their indigenous culture through reciprocity. I love this conversation too. So we're going to talk about how important it is to have diversity and representation in your board of directors, the importance of having local nonprofit organization partners, and what are the challenges that small nonprofits face getting grants from big organizations. So that should be a good conversation too. I hope you'll tune in next week. Priscilla, have a wonderful day. Let's schedule to get together for breakfast, coffee, lunch.
Tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah. You can stay on. I'm going to end the broadcast now. Everybody have a good week. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll tune in next week, and let us know if you have any suggestions for people to be on as a guest or topics. If you would like to be my guest, I'd love to have you. Just reach out. Thanks so much.
Thank you.